Thank you for tuning in to the Nola Experience podcast. Raw, honest, relatable conversations that help us grow. Be sure to follow us on all social platforms at the Nola Experience podcast and watch and listen to your favorite TNREP episodes on your favorite podcast platform.
On today's episode, the call I made that saved my life. Did you know? I have a question, the SOA Q&A, and of course, today's happy habit. Welcome to part 2 of the spiritual initiation that dragged me. If you have not listened to part 1, pause, go back to part 1, listen, tell me your thoughts on that, and then listen to this one. But if you have already tuned into part 1, welcome back and let's get right into it. So again, if you've tuned into part 1, you know that last year was a year for me. You know that I went through it. You know that I experienced something that was unprecedented, something that I had never felt, things I've never felt, things I've never thought, things I've never experienced, a lot of pain, a lot of learning. That's really the part for me that hits, the learning that comes out of the pain. So I did promise that I would talk about how I came out of that, what happened after I came out of that, what are the things that I did to make that bold, masterful shift, because being really deep in a dark place does require a lot. And it's perhaps the reason why so many people just stay in dark spaces and succumb to those dark spaces, because sometimes the work and the shifts and pivots that you have to make to move out of those spaces might seem bigger than being in those spaces. And I'm telling you, I am living proof, and billions of other people are living proof that it's simply not true. Of course it's work. Of course it's uncomfortable. Of course it puts you through changes, and going into the unknown can feel crazy. And that scares us. It is scary. But imagine that on the other side of that, there's just bliss. There's just a world where you can flourish and thrive and not have to stay where you were before. But if you decide to stay there, then there is no other world. It's just that. And it's guaranteed suffering. Anyway, so what did I do? What happened? You know all the things that I suffered from. Let me tell you about the things that got me feeling better, got me looking better, got me doing better. Last year felt very sacred, right? But I feel like when we hear the word sacred, we tend to think that it's something soft and something comfortable. Being in a sacred space isn't always a soft space. It isn't always a comfortable space. Sometimes it's the hardest thing that you can go through. Sometimes it's the most uncomfortable thing that you can go through. But what happens is the hardships and the discomfort, if you utilize them, if you actually leverage them, you can put yourself in a place of profound knowledge and experience that can propel you into bliss. But you have to choose that. You have to actually want that. You have to have a mindset of, I am going to use this. I met someone at a networking event, and I had no idea that that meeting would impact my life the way that it has. So I met him. We discussed doing business together. And when we had our very first meeting to discuss how we were going to do business together, he told me about a personal development program that he was a part of. And even though even though he told me about the program, I still had no idea what it was about. I had no idea what to expect, what happened in the program, but I heard about the results and I wanted those results for myself. So I made the decision to join the program and went into it just hopeful, excited, and grateful that I was even on that path. So I'm not going to speak directly on the program during this podcast, but if you are interested, after hearing about my experience, you can definitely hit me up. So I made the decision to join the program, and it was 3 days of tapping into things about myself that I was either ignoring, neglecting, or simply did not know existed. I'm not saying that it was easy. I'm not saying that it was a soft place. Y'all heard me. It was not a soft place. But I so appreciated what was being uncovered and what was becoming clear to me. Seeing myself and feeling myself in such a raw form, it was scary, it was painful, but at the same time exhilarating and profound and beautiful. And I wanted more. I wanted more. I am always committed to ways that I can be better. And those ways of being better, it's not decided by other people. It's how I think I can be better. So I went through the program and learned that there are 3 levels to it. After I was done with level 1, I went home and had a big celebration the next day. So I couldn't even truly process what had happened. And then on day 2, when I was home and had time to process and think, I realized that I needed to make some big changes. The things that I had to admit to in that program led me to decide that, oh my goodness, the person who betrayed me in this business, I have to no longer speak to them. I had to no longer have my walls down and my boundaries flailing in the wind and allowing them to do whatever and have access to me the way they had. That was hard because this wasn't just some random relationship. This was also a sacred relationship. But I had to make the decision to create boundaries that were so strong that it would change the nature of the relationship in a way that was so scary. I was petrified. I was horrified. I was so afraid of what those boundaries would do. I had to make another decision. And all of these decisions came from me going through that program over the weekend and having these profound realizations and having to admit and having to be honest and having to not play myself anymore. The second decision that I made was to let go of Waterfall Lounge. The business that I visualized, I created the logo, I came up with the name, I came up with the brand kit. I single-handedly went through all of the legalities. I filled out all the forms. I had all the meetings. I collaborated with New York City Small Business Services for support. I recruited staff. I interviewed them. I hired people. I created the menu, the food menu, the cocktail menu. I created the recipes for the cocktails. I had tastings for the cocktails. I had my friends come by and give me feedback on the cocktails. I picked the paint. I picked the furniture. I ordered all the bar supplies. I ordered the inventory. You name it, I did it. Okay? There was so much thought and intention and love and work and time and energy and spirit that went into creating that business. It was no small task. And I'm painting this picture for you. I just gave you a small list of what I did. That's not even the official long list. That's the small list of what I did. And I did so much of it without the support of people who said that they would support me. No hard feelings, fine. Things happen. The business that I dedicated so much to, it impacted how I was spending time with my son. It impacted how I spent time at home. I spent months not lighting the stove, not being in the kitchen, not preparing food. There was so much happening that just took me outside of what I was comfortable in, what I was used to, how I wanted to live, how I wanted to be as a mother. And I was conscious about it. I kept my son in the loop. We talked constantly. And I knew I was making a sacrifice. So, no, it was not an easy decision to let go of this business. But in one weekend, being truly honest and being open to receiving coaching led me to making that decision. And the next morning, I woke up and plunged into depression. Realizing that I needed to create very strong boundaries with that relationship and not speak to that person. And realizing that my freedom was on the other side of letting go of that business was hard to handle. But I did it. I did it. I had to choose me. I had to choose the woman that I wanted to become. And the thing that people say all the time, I know you've heard this before, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Be the person that you want to be. You want to be wealthy? Act wealthy. You want to be this? Act like that. I know we hear it all the time, but actually doing it. I knew that I needed to go back to therapy. So that was one of the first steps that I took. Once I realized that I was having a hard time figuring this stuff out, and when I contacted my therapist, she knew. automatically because it had been 13 months since I had last seen her. And she knew that if I am coming to a therapist, this is definitely something that I cannot maneuver. And I'm having a lot of trouble figuring it out. Went back into therapy. And I think by the second session, my therapist gave me some insight that immediately relieved some of the pain that I had surrounding the boundaries with that relationship. She said one thing to me. I made one discovery and I immediately, I felt my body just feel relieved. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay. Again, being open to receiving, being open to acting on what that information or that message that you received. So I went ahead and started my healing. I had to accept that, first of all, at the very beginning, when I heard about this business proposal, I did not want to do it. I had to go back and take accountability for that part. Girl, you knew. How many of you cannot see where you are responsible for your own suffering? How many of you can take accountability and responsibility in your own suffering? If you really sit with it, the thing that's bothering you, the thing that's causing disruption for you, the relationship that you're having struggles in, if you really pay attention and you're open to being honest, you're going to see a point where you invited that situation in. And me making the decision to do something that my body was telling me not to do, I had to take responsibility. And taking responsibility wasn't something that caused me to, during that phase, it did not cause me to feel worse. I actually started feeling better because now I'm in therapy. I had support with those feelings. I had guidance surrounding the things that were blockers for me. And I was getting mental emotional help. I took accountability for my part in my suffering, and I accepted what I needed to do and immediately started feeling better. I wasn't all the way in the clear, but I started feeling better. And I knew if I kept at this and I kept going, I would make even more progress. And I kept going. Of course, it wasn't easy. It was crazy. But over time, I started feeling better and better and better. And one day, I had to also accept all of the goodness that came into my life by starting that business, going into that community, touching the people that I touched, being touched by the people who touched me, the relationships that I formed, the experiences that I had, the new world that I was a part of, the new community that I can call friends now. There was so much that came out of that. And you know what? I can say confidently, I can say it with my whole chest that I sat there and created that whole business by myself. And now I know for a fact that I can do it. I know for a fact that if I wanted to do this again, I could. That's exhilarating. I gained so much confidence from that. Once I stopped looking at what was causing me to suffer, and I started looking at how I built a part of myself during that period, I became even more confident. I was like, God, I'm that girl. I can look in the mirror and say, you that girl. I did that. And even though I'm no longer a part of the business, I made that decision. And yes, it did cause disruptions for other people as well. Once I started breaking the news to everybody, yeah, that part hurt. That part hurt a lot. There were people who stopped affiliating with the business once I was no longer there. They left. People no longer wanted to work with the business once I was no longer there. And I didn't tell them not to. I just announced that I would no longer be there, and majority of people wanted to jump ship. But I advise people, I'm like, the labor market out there right now is a little bit crazy. Think about it. Obviously, it's ultimately up to you what you want to do with your life. But I wouldn't advise you to just go out and not have a job. But that part was rough. That part was definitely rough. And I'm grateful that I had that level of support. But at the same time, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. And I was very intentional about making sure I left very good vibes, very good experiences, memories with those people who supported me. And we're still connected today. Many of them I'm still connected with, but that part was rough. Leaving Waterfall Lounge was a breakthrough that I needed for my self-confidence. I needed it for the new skills that I now have. I needed it for the experiences that I gained, the knowledge that I gained, the relationships, and the new world that I was able to create. So today, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. I can sit here and say that experience for me now has manifested into gratitude. I'm an alchemist. I can turn pain into purpose. I can do that. I'm living proof that I can do that. I'm sitting here right now with receipts that I have done that. I feel better. I look better. I'm doing better. Now, what are some other things that I did? So, quick recap. I started taking care of my mental health by getting support when I felt stuck. I started taking responsibility and accountability for my role in my suffering. And I started looking at the positive side of my experience with creating and owning that business for such a short time. The experience, the skills, the knowledge. I know so much that I can go anywhere and create anything with what I've learned. So you know what I've decided to do? My initial plan with Waterfall Lounge, like I said before, if you listen to part 1, you should have listened to it by now. I thought that I would be in the business for 2 years. And in those 2 years, I would come out and consult, coach, create my own schedule, and live life on my terms without the chaos and the madness that is nightlife. Managing an establishment in nightlife is not easy. As a matter of fact, sometimes it can be crazy and chaotic and mad, nuts. There are so many people who have walked into that industry and quickly walked out because they were like, this ain't it. This is not what I thought it was from the outside. But once you're in it, it's a completely different world. So I am profoundly proud to introduce Nola Rowe and Company. Nola Rowe and Company is an umbrella company that holds 3 profound offerings that I am extremely proud of. The first one is a coaching and consulting business where I support emerging, aspiring entrepreneurs who have great ideas, but they don't know how to turn them into businesses. That's what I'm doing. Remember I talked about the skills and the experience and the knowledge and all the learning? I spent 20 years in hospitality, racking up on my knowledge and my skills. I have gained so much, and finally starting a business by myself and pulling so many strings. You don't know the sacrifices and the leverage and the things that I've had to go through to make that business happen. Now I'm putting it into my coaching programs, my consulting programs. The second thing is obviously you're tuned into the Nola Rowe Experience podcast right now. That's my second offering where I get to sit here and talk to you and give you insight because I have so much happening in my head. There's a place where this information and these messages need to go. And this is where I come to do it. I get all of it out and I offer it to you. And the third, which comes from my heart space, is the Guilford and Irma Foundation, which is named after my grandparents. I'm so proud of that. I get to go into the community with this foundation and support people with mental health, digital and tech literacy. And this is what I get to say after going through all of those things. I get to say that I came out with so much experience that I can now offer you messages. I can offer you information. I can offer you gems. I can offer you so much that can, one, help you maneuver through what you're going through or even avoid going through some of the things that I've gone through. I went through them so you don't have to. So I am so proud of that. Nola Rowe and Company is on its way to being full-blown launched. And in the meantime, I'm not even doing a coming soon site or anything like that. The site is under construction and you can actually log on and see how I'm building it. You can see the site being in its construction mode and being built from ideas into an actual empire. NolaRoweandCo.com. That's NolaRoandCo.com. So new website, log on. And if I can support you with anything that I'm doing, I will be ecstatic to do that. So that's the other thing that came out of this, which I am proud of and excited to introduce to the world. And hopefully there's not hopefully, I know for a fact there's at least one person listening right now that I can support. And I have to tell you that I went through the grieving. It was grieving, right? I had to grieve a relationship. I had to grieve a business that I had put so much into. And that was a sacred moment as well. And I had to see it as that. I had to submit to the days in bed, and I had to submit to the Netflix binge watching. Like, that's how you know when I'm going through something. I'm not going to be outside drinking every day. I'm not going to overeat. I'm not an emotional eater. But if you see me binging and I'm just rotting in the bed watching, yeah. I'm not okay. That's my version of release and comfort. And the other thing that I had to do was trust. I had to trust that letting go and walking away was going to offer me a place where I can still be okay. Do you know how scary that is? When you've taken all of your savings, when you've taken all that you had, when you had big things that you were about to pay for, and you take the money from that to put into a business that you did not go through with? What? And you weren't sure how you were going to get that compensation back? What? To let that go and walk into the unknown? That's a divine level of trust that I can't even explain. But I had to trust. I had to trust myself. I had to trust that if I made decisions based on my heart, if I followed my intuition, and if I stopped ignoring myself, that the path was going to be illuminated for me. And that's exactly what's been happening. That's exactly what started happening for me. I started, even though I couldn't see, it was foggy, I didn't know what was in front of me, I stepped in faith, and every single step that I made opened up new doors. Oh my goodness. The world that I'm living in right now is not perfect, but it's so beautiful. Because I saw how my trust manifested. I saw how my faith manifested. I trusted that I was going to be okay if I made decisions based on what was happening in my heart. I wasn't making decisions based on logics. I wasn't making decisions based on what's the correct thing to do. Is this the right move? There is no such thing as right and wrong moves. I feel like we make decisions and we decide if the decision was right or wrong based on how comfortable we feel with the outcome. When the outcome is comfortable and it benefits us, we're like, yeah, that was the right decision. When the outcome is uncomfortable and we feel like it's not beneficial, we're like, that was the wrong decision. But what happens when you call it the wrong decision is you don't see the lesson and the gem and the food in it. You don't see how you can feed off of that and leverage it and make it yours. I could have said, I made the wrong decision going into Waterfall Lounge. I can help you start a lounge. I can help you start a bar. I can help you build a restaurant. I can take everything that I've learned in business and help you start any kind of business because there's a formula. It was painful, it was uncomfortable, it was horrible at times, but it wasn't a wrong decision. It wasn't a right decision. It was just a decision. But if you look at how you can benefit from it and stop focusing on the suffering, you're going to realize that every decision you make is the right decision. Every decision you make will benefit you. And that's the mindset that I get to have. That's the mindset that I get to live through and teach other people and offer other people. So Nola Rowe & Company is coming. I'm excited about that. But there are other beautiful things that happen that I'm about to get into. But let me say one more thing really quickly. When you want to become a certain person, when you want to do certain things, when you want to level up, when you want to go into another world, when you want to expand, you have to shed your old ways of being. You have to shed the skin of the old ways of being. You cannot expand wearing clothes that's too small for you. Have you ever seen the Hulk? Have you ever seen what happens to his clothes when he's in true form? You can no longer wear that old way of being. You can no longer be that person. You have to accept expansion for what it is. And expansion for what it is letting go. And the letting go part, I know that's the hard part. I know that's the crazy part. I know that's the part that everybody's afraid of, but you have to do it. It's completely necessary. And expansion is the other way that I was able to get into this place that I'm at right now. Experiencing all of this joy, looking at myself and saying, yeah, that's her. This is the woman that I've been envisioning all of these years. Well, part of her. I'm still a work in progress. But she's coming. She's emerging. She's expanding. She's trusting, accepting. She's taking responsibility. She's taking accountability. She's not blaming anybody anymore. She's not playing a victim anymore. She is accepting the role that she had in her suffering. She's glowing. She's loving. She's being vulnerable. She's connecting. She's being powerful. She's embodying that queen energy that's always been there, but there are levels to it. And when you expand into those levels, you got to let go. You might be asking, so what's up with that relationship? What's up with that relationship that you had to let go of, that you had to create boundaries? Guess what? We're doing better. We spent about 6 months not speaking. And it was horrible for both of us because, like I said before, it's a sacred relationship. And we both went through it not speaking to each other, or me not speaking to them. But accepting. That's the part where I think we both played a role in getting to where we're at. And we're doing better now. I don't waver on my boundaries. I still have those boundaries because once you learned how a person is, once you have figured out how a person operates, you can't now act like you have to call a thing a thing. You have to call it what it is. And when you don't call it what it is and you ignore it, that's how you end up in trouble. If it's a duck and it's quacking, it's a duck. You can't look at a dog and want the dog to meow and then you're suffering every time it barks. Makes no sense. You see how that person is, you accept them for who they are, and then you adjust so that you're okay. And that's what I've been doing. Adjusting and accepting. I accept who you are. I realize that a lot of your ways of being don't work for me. So I have to now adjust myself so that I can meet you where you are and we're okay. With less judgment. Because I'm not fully judgment free yet. There's still some lingering there. I'll admit it. So accepting and being in alignment. Being in alignment. I have to say that when you focus on the end result, you might get a little bit jammed up because it's not really possible to go from A to Z. It's not possible. You have to go through the alphabet. But if you align yourself with where you need to go and you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you keep making decisions from the heart space, you will end up where you need to end up. You're going to get there. There might be some bumps in the road. There might be some detours, whatever. That's life. Doesn't mean you're having a bad day. Doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. If you're making decisions intuitively and you're making decisions from the heart space, the path will illuminate for you. All right. So you did hear me say that there was something else that happened that I'm excited about. Some people know this, but not a lot of people know that I am getting married. Yeah, that's another thing that happened. And not only am I grateful for the experience of being a fiance and being in love and having all of this bliss, but I'm grateful to be aligned with somebody who sees me, somebody who sees all the things and is accepting as well. And I think, again, when you make decisions from the heart space, you also align with the right people. You also align with the people who will bless your life, help you experience bliss, support you, love you. And I'm grateful that not only am I in this space where I am supporting myself, but I'm in a space with someone who's supporting me as well. And I am super grateful for that. All right. So next segment. Did you know? I have a question. It's coming up. And the SOA, Q&A, and today's happy habit. But first, did you know therapists report that the number one reason people avoid therapy is fear of confronting truths that could break their current relationships? That is so believable. I believe it. I get it. Because I've definitely had that experience being in therapy where my therapist was kind of not telling me what to do, but I could read between the lines that, yeah, that relationship might not be working for you. And it doesn't feel good. It's scary because now you have to go, do this work and create the boundaries and disrupt the situation that might be out of your comfort zone. But therapists report that the number one reason people avoid therapy is fear of confronting truths that could break their current relationship. Okay, so I have a question and I would love to hear your answer. You can email me, talkwithnola@gmail, 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 or you can DM me on social media. What is something that you did to choose yourself? Or when was the last time you chose yourself, but it hurt? When was the last time you chose yourself, but it hurt? I would love to hear your answers. So now we are about to jump into the SOA Q&A where my producer, Shot of Adrenaline, will ask me questions that I have to answer. Ready? All right, let's go. What's a dream job that I secretly still think about? I don't dream about jobs. I don't. That's it. I don't dream about jobs. What cultural norm was I raised with, but I currently challenge? Definitely including kids in conversations. Of course, you do have to create boundaries when it comes to conversations that you're having with other adults and there are children in the room. But if my son has a thought and he is inquiring about something, I, in that moment, realize, oh, this is already in your ecosystem. This is already in your head. Let's talk about it. And we don't have to always shut things down because the person raising the question or raising a point is a child. That's crazy to me. I have made so much space for my son to feel safe and comfortable to ask any kind of question, express himself. And if it's something that I'm uncomfortable about, if it's something that I don't have an answer to, then I express that honestly. I'll tell him I'm not comfortable with that. Or I don't have the answer to that. Or we can explore that together. We can figure it out together. But completely making a child feel like they are inferior and they don't have a voice, I challenge that. If I could apologize to anyone from my past, who would it be and why? I'm not going to say the person's name, but I would apologize to a woman who is a speaker. She's very well known. I would apologize because many, many, many years ago, we collaborated on an event and I made an inappropriate joke about an experience that she had in life, a very serious experience. And I feel like I took the liberty of making that joke as if she was one of my friends when we weren't friends. It's something that you do with a family member or someone that you're close to, that you have the privilege of making those types of jokes with. And I made the joke with her and I thought about it like years later, literally years later, it came to me and I was like, why did I do that if I wouldn't be cool with someone doing it with me? So definitely I would apologize to her. And if I ever run into her, I'll do just that. Okay, so it's today's happy habit. This is where we talk about a habit or just something that you either do daily or you do periodically that brings you joy. And the reason why I wanted to have this segment on this podcast is because we bypass these seemingly small things in life that can make a difference for us, seeking the bigger things and the bigger stimulations that fool us into thinking that we're having this great life. And I like to focus on things that are seemingly small, but can make a big difference. Today's happy habit for me, rightfully so, would be boundaries. Boundaries. I feel like that word is starting to be thrown around a lot, but it's so profound. It's so effective if you do it in a way that's respectful and a way that actually works for you. And it's definitely brought me a lot of joy because, prime example, the relationship that I've been talking about during these 2 episodes, when I created the boundary of not having verbal conversations with that person, I was like, you're only allowed to text me and it has to be important. When I created that boundary, the amount of pressure that came off of me, the amount of static that I avoided, the amount of arguments, attitude, weird energy that I avoided made me feel so much better. And I was like, yeah, this boundary thing, it's needed, it works, and definitely brought me joy in that situation. I'm so grateful that you all tuned in today. I hope that there's something that you were able to gravitate to, take with you, hold on to. I hope that it brings you insight. I hope that it brings you a perspective shift. And definitely, of course, I hope that it brings you joy. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in to the Nola Rowe Experience Podcast. Created and hosted by Nola Rowe. Produced by Take Action Media. Theme song by Mr. Melee. Sponsored by The Hills Restaurant, Brooklyn, New York. Listen to us on all podcast platforms and follow us on social media at the Nola Rowe Experience Podcast. Visit the NolaRoweExperiencePodcast.com and connect with us via email at talkwithnola@gmail.com.